Believe me, I want Halo Infinite to be as big of a hit as you do and as many other fans do, but a lot of us are conflicted about if the game being released and built on the Xbox One, this system that is 8 years old, is that gonna hold it back? Is it gonna prevent it from being a big release? Well, I did my research, and by the end of this video, my goal is to give you a fair opinion on that exact question, that exact debate, and it's gonna be backed with various examples from not just Halo, but also the gaming industry as a whole. And if you want more Halo videos like this, as well as other gaming stuff to keep the hype going this year in 2021, subscribe to the channel and click the bell to be notified when a new video is coming up. And of course, join this debate in the comments below. Be constructive, of course. But yeah, Samurai Kibiji, what's up? And stick to the end because I do have an ideal situation, at least in my opinion, that would really make just kind of all parties win here. But let's talk about the one thing that actually will severely be held back by the Xbox One, and that is the game design. And if you don't know what I mean by game design, I'm talking about things like programming, scripting, AIs, level design, the scope of battles, game mechanics. Like, that is something at the core of the game. And that's stuff that, you know, can be very hardware dependent. Ratchet and Clank and the Medium are two prime examples of what like next gen exclusive stuff can do in terms of instantly loading, you know, new worlds and having two simultaneous worlds running at the same time. That's just things that like these super fast SSDs and the way better CPUs on these new systems can do that allow for more complex game design. So then yeah, we could just end the video right there and there's no need to watch anymore, right? Oh yeah, game design is held back. Not all of it though. The one thing that doesn't get held back is the visuals. And I know some would argue that yes, they do and stuff. They are. It's not like the Xbox One is going to be able to run the same game that the Xbox Series are or PC, but nonetheless, visuals are scalable. And even if they aren't, we've reached this peak, numerous peaks in terms of visual fidelity for games that just hardware has managed to trump through and make work. Two great examples of things that were running on last gen hardware is Naughty Dog's Uncharted 4 and Last of Us 2. Those games are seriously two of the best looking games I have ever seen, and those are running on last gen hardware. There's a Microsoft example I'll get to a bit, but there's just a lot of things that kind of scale up and down with things like anti-aliasing, ray tracing, ambient occlusion. These are all things that are not resolution and frame rate. They're just actual visual fidelity things. GTA 5 and Titanfall are prime examples of games that were on the Xbox 360 and were on the Xbox One. But if you look at comparisons between the two, they are vastly different. They really do, you know, you can tell it's the still same base model, but they just looked better on the Xbox One, and that's how it's gonna be for the Series and PC. But if you want an in-house example though, Gears 5 is a prime example of how visuals can be scaled up and down. I just played through the game on the Series X and my new TV, and it looked great. You know why? Because not only did the resolution and frame rate go up, but it is the texture pack. The texture pack could be ported in and it made the game just look better. It had way better textures, and that's, again, another example of things that can be scaled up and down. But I am not saying that the Xbox One doesn't hold the game back, because to put these two together, visuals and game design, we need to talk about the world design. Now, as a Halo fan, one of the things that really excites me about Halo Infinite is it being the most ambitious. Like, it is the most ambitious Halo game, and even the original creator saying this is the original vision of the game we had. We just didn't have the technology for it at the time. That was really cool to hear him say. Because ever since Halo 1, they've been working off of I think it's the Havoc engine, correct me if I'm wrong, but basically ever since Halo 1, they have been working off of the same engine ever since. They've just been modifying it and upgrading it as time goes on up to Halo 5. And now it's to the point where they're just like, look, this engine isn't gonna cut it. So Microsoft and Xbox cut them a check to develop a completely new engine that can do the ambitions that they're looking for, aka slipspace. And one of the reasons they probably needed this new engine was because of the open world design of the game. That, again, game design is held back, visuals are not, but together, you know, what are they gonna be able to pull off an open world on the Xbox One? Well, it's not like it's a new thing to the industry, period. There's a long list of open world games that looked and played great on last gen. Prime examples I would say is like Horizon Zero Dawn, Arkham Knight, one of my favorite games of all time, and No Man's Sky. That started off as kind of a game, and then now it's freaking great. It just won like best ongoing game or something like that at the Game Awards. The best example to me is Red Dead Redemption 2. That is still to this day maybe the best looking game I have ever played, and somehow Rockstar made that run super smoothly on the Xbox One and PS4. If they could do that, and this game has Microsoft's backing, it's not shocking to believe that they could make a great open world Halo game on the Xbox One. It might just run, you know, at like a lesser resolution and frame rate with the texture packs and anti-aliasing and all that stuff. Like that's gonna be downgraded, but on the Series X and stuff, you don't have to worry about it. It's just all there, all the max textures and no fog, you're good to go. Now don't think this is me trying to say like don't worry about it or whatever, because I do want Halo Infinite to not only be a great game, but for it to succeed and for it to be a big release, you know, to bring it back to those glory days. We need a lot of players. We need a lot of player base. Now, granted, Halo Infinite doesn't need to be a cross-platform release to do that. Hell, some of the biggest releases of all time were console or platform exclusives, Halo 3 being one of them. Halo's in a new age though. It's a very new age, and they're looking to potentially, instead of just being a single game, they want Infinite to be its title, being a kind of infinite platform for many years going. Think about things like Fortnite, GTA Online, Minecraft, Apex Legends, and many more that are just games that continue to grow years after their release, and even two of those examples are examples of games that are free to play, which is what Halo's going for. And to do this, they want to create the biggest player base possible, and they need a lot of people going into that player base if they're gonna keep updating it with free content and stuff, and Xbox One is a means to do that. There's over 50 million of those consoles out there, and if they just abandon that user base, then that's, to be honest, that's probably a majority of the Halo base that we'll have by this time next year. So back to the question, does the Xbox One hold Halo Infinite back? To sum it up, yes, in some ways, in terms of the game being the best game it could possibly be, yeah, absolutely. But for the most part, no, not really. Would we have gotten a better Halo? Yeah, that's just what you get to do when you're like building a game specifically for top tier hardware. Again, like, you know, Ratchet and Clank, I said, for example. There are some things in my ideal world that they could do to make the game, you know, just very believably the best they could possibly make it run, you know, for whatever you play it on. Scalable multiplayer modes is a good example. Way back in the day, there was like Battlefield 3, where they had 24 players if you were on the 360, but if you went to PC, you could have 64. And let's be honest, the PS4 and Xbox One, who knows how much longer they're gonna be relevant? How many of us still play our 360s, you know? And maybe after like a year or two, they'll potentially stop, like, not the support for Halo Infinite on Xbox One, but like, if there's all these patches and new things, they might start to, you know, stop supporting that. GTA Online did the same thing. I think it was only like 2 or 3 years after GTA Online launched, Rockstar stopped supporting it for the 360 and PS3. All the updates that they added, you could only get on, you know, PS4s and ones. Multiplayer shouldn't be held back by this, and maybe that's why they especially want to make that part the free-to-play part. And it's not gonna hold back game design, I would imagine, because multiplayer is a lot smaller scale than what this open world campaign might be. And again, like Titanfall and Battlefield, you know, Titanfall had some crazy game mechanics when it came out, but they made that work for the 360 and One. And Battlefield, they just have so many players and they made it work regardless of the system. Those games had scalable game design and visuals, and they made them work. And you also might be thinking Halo Infinite's in development hell and stuff, and that there's just not enough time for them to develop it for the Xbox One, but Joseph Staten already played through the game twice. He played through the game twice, and whether it was PR or not, he says he freaking loved it. And if the game is playable and the level designer for 343, this game, left, then that to me tells me that they're just gonna spend this year just kind of knick-knacking and polishing it up. 343 doesn't want to repeat the mistake that Cyberpunk 2077 did. That was, you know, giant story that I didn't cover on the channel, but they don't want to make that mistake. Xbox doesn't want to make that mistake. Microsoft doesn't. So I think they're just giving 343 this entire year to make sure this game will run the best on whatever system it's running on, and they got the year to do that. So yes, in my opinion, I would have liked Halo Infinite to be a PC and Series exclusive, but I also like the idea of being able to play with my friends on Xbox One if they didn't get a Series or a PC. I do like that, because Halo is a game I want to experience with people. But yeah, the game is being held back. Like, I'm not gonna deny that, but it's just, is it really going to make it much less of a Halo release than we would have got? It's a very important release. There's a video I did about that here on why Halo Infinite is so important. And if you want to find that out, go watch that and leave me your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Halo Infinite and the release itself will be that held back by being on Xbox One?